Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series, Rescue the Rockies. And free agency for the 2026 to 2027 offseason is now underway. We've got a decent amount of money to spend. Unfortunately, the free agent pool is not incredibly attractive as far as I'm concerned. We're definitely zeroing in on one player, and you can see we've actually made an offer to him already. Got a lot of positive feedback from the worldwide scouting department on potentially trying to bring Jesus Luzardo on board, looking for about $16 million a year for 6 years. You can see we've made him an offer for somewhat less than that, and we've added in team options in the 5th and 6th seasons. So it's a very friendly contract for a 6-year contract. I do worry a little bit that we've seen some other pitchers over the course of this playthrough already who have seemed very reticent about signing with Colorado. So given that we do play our games in an environment that is somewhat inhospitable for pitchers, and we're also offering him about $12 million less total and a less favorable structure than he's looking for, I do worry that we could find ourselves getting in a bidding war for Mr. Luzardo. But we're going to try, at least for the time being, to get him at our price. One other guy that I am looking at, and Gilbert Gonzalez brought him up most recently, is Lance McCullers Jr. There's a lot to really dislike about McCullers Jr., but there are some things to potentially like about him as well. The things that concern me: he missed most of this past season with a torn rotator cuff. He's wrecked physically. He's got a pretty negative personality, and he's heading into his mid-30s. And although the $7.5 million that he's looking for is not an incredible amount for a player with his track record, he is also looking for a 3-year deal. So definitely some things that concern me, but there are some things that I like about Lance McCullers Jr. as well. He has been a good major league pitcher over the course of his career with a 1.14 ERA plus and 88 FIP minus. Although to be fair, when we look at these last 2 seasons after he missed 2 complete years in a row, he's been a very different pitcher and well below average in terms of his ERA plus and FIP minus both years. So we would be hoping that he reverts to his older form, but he does have a track record of being a successful major league pitcher. He does have extreme ground ball tendencies and tends to keep the ball in the park. We're going to wait until he recovers from this latest injury and then rescout him, hopefully have a better feel for what he really looks on the other side of this last setback that he's happened. But given those ground ball tendencies, he's still in the mix. Not going to be our first priority. The first priority is Luzardo. But if we're able to really bring McCullers on for around $6.5, $7.5 million a year, and he kind of looks like he does right now on the other side of that injury, according to our scout, I think he might not be a bad guy for us to bring on board. We do have some money to spend this year, but it would not be a long-term commitment that would likely restrict our ability to bring on more impactful players in the future. And we're also keeping an eye on some other players as well. There are certainly a number of relievers who could help our team significantly if we decided to pursue them. Some of the price is a bit high. We have looked at Camilo Doval, but he wants to be promised a closer role And we have a good young closer from this past season, and I also do worry a bit about his control. He walked 32 batters in just 36 and two-thirds innings this year. That said, like the extreme ground ball tendencies, very good at keeping the ball in the park, throws over 100 miles an hour. There's a lot to like about him. So he's a guy that we'll keep an eye on, who seems a little more reasonable than some of the other higher end relievers who are available. I don't see ourselves making any crazy commitments to position players at this point, given the pricing. Alec Burleson is cheap compared to most of the other free agents at only $2 million a year. But given that we've already got two left-handed hitting corner outfielders on the team in the recently traded for Mr. Simpson, as well as Austin Wells, who we picked up a year ago, I don't know that bringing in another left-handed corner outfielder who's not great defensively and coming off 2 consecutive years where he's been a below average offensive player and ultimately a below replacement level player is really something that we're going to actively pursue. But we'll keep an eye on the market broadly. Hopefully some prices will get more reasonable, and maybe we'll be able to add a little more talent into this organization as the offseason moves forward. And we traded at the start of the offseason for Drew Summers. We just got a scouting report back on him, so we're up to high scouting accuracy. He kind of looks generally as we thought he would. Think he can be a respectable left-handed reliever for us going forward. Mr. Duvall also has reached out to us and said he wants to reopen the conversation. The money doesn't scare me. I'm just not really necessarily all that into his demand for the closer role. So I'm going to throw a couple of team options in here too, which I didn't have before because he came back to me hat in hand, as it were. I don't think this is going to be something that he's going to be all that enthusiastic about, an average of $3.4 million for the next 3 years, but with a couple of options for us for the second and third potential seasons. And that promised role that he was looking for will not be there. And looks like he's not really that interested in us because he's just asking for more money without really giving us any feedback. Oh, maybe I clicked something improper. Felt like I had clicked on that and nothing really happened, but says he's willing to think about it. I don't know that this is ultimately going to land him, but if we can bring him with the velocity, the ability to keep the ball in the park, and the ground ball tendencies that he has, and not have to have him being angry that he's not closing for us if he's walking a ton of batters, I think he's definitely worth taking a flyer on. And we've simmed forward about a week, still no substantive feedback from either Duvall or Luzardo. We've basically been continuing to scout the international amateur free agent class. That's likely what we will conclude this episode with, taking a look at the IAFA pool and our top options that are available. Did also get a suggestion that I'll mention here to potentially go after Hung Chang Shi, the import from Taipei, who is looking for over $20 million a year. One suggestion was to try to turn him into a starter, given that he's got decent stamina. My concern with that is he's 28 years old, and he's only a 2-pitch guy at this point. We'd have to be successful with him in the development lab, and we'd also have to end one of the long development programs that we just started to even get him into a program to perhaps add a new pitch. And I think given the price tag, given the very modest stamina to begin with, and his age, it's an interesting thought to try to turn him into a starter, but not something that I'm willing to spend at this point about $127 million to gamble on. And we have finally gotten some feedback from Duvall that he favors the offer we made to him. Mr. Luzardo still being very silent. We are only 3 days away from the start of the winter meetings now, so we'll hopefully start getting some feedback, and we're going to be at least offline trying to investigate the trade market pretty aggressively. I don't know that there will be anything all that exciting for us to do, but definitely going to try to take advantage of the activity of the winter meetings if we find a player who is interesting to pursue that we can perhaps trade for without getting our face completely ripped off. And good news and bad news. Duvall says the Dodgers have outbid us for him. The good news is that Luzardo claims that we are at the head of the pack. The winter meetings begin today. The draft lottery results done. A lot more chalky than it was a year ago when we were the worst team in baseball and ended up picking fifth. The top 5 picks are going to go to the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th ranked teams as far as being the worst in baseball last year. So I guess the team that was the 2nd worst overall feeling pretty bad about things, and it looks like that was San Diego Padres. Scary how quickly the Padres have deteriorated in this fantasy world that we're living in. And we're not being, I think, too greedy in the type of pitchers that we're looking for here in the trade market. Basically just looking for someone with average stuff, average control, and slightly above average movement. You can see there's a large group of pitchers out there who meet those criteria, including 4 relievers. We're more interested in starters. Unfortunately, the price, as you would expect for most of them, is prohibitive. But there is a guy that we really like, or we have really liked in the past. And no, it's not Orion Kerkering. I just haven't seen how crazy the demands for him are. We'd have to give up Adael Amador to bring him on board. Amador is in the development lab for us right now, and particularly with the fact that we moved on from Eggy Rosario, probably going to have a pretty prominent role for us next year. He's the only one we can trade to the Phillies to get the excellent reliever, Orion Kerkering. I think a potential everyday infielder for a closer / reliever is a little more than I want to pay. But back to the guy who I think we can get pretty easily. It looks like the Dodgers are souring a bit on Dustin May. You may remember we almost traded for him a season or 2 ago. The Dodgers, or actually, I don't know if I think we did try to trade for him, and then I think we also had a hope that he was going to hit free agency, and then the Dodgers signed him to an extension, although with only 7 years, 59 days of experience. I can't remember whether he was on the free agent list or the trade list or both. But regardless, we explored bringing him on board. We definitely looked into trades for him and kind of felt bad that we hadn't done a deal. He kind of just barely meets the minimum criteria we were looking for. Average stuff, average control, slightly above average movement. But we do like that he's another ground ball pitcher who can hit triple digits. Hasn't been good for the Dodgers. Was pretty much a league average pitcher a year ago, although he was 2.5 wins above replacement. But this past season, he was a below average pitcher according to his ERA plus and FIP minus, and only half a win above replacement level. making $10.5 million for this year and next year. But as I think about potentially bringing on Lance McCullers Jr. or Dustin May, May is younger, May is healthier, May is not a negative personality in the clubhouse. The money for May is going to be a little bit higher, but it actually looks like the Dodgers are willing to keep some of it. And you can see from the list here, they're looking for useful people to bring him on board, but there are multiple options out there for us to consider to try to get a deal done. And I don't think, Dustin May is a top-end starter, but I do think he is a guy who could certainly help our rotation and certainly would be one of the better starters on our team next year if we brought him on board. Certainly with the money he'd be making, it wouldn't preclude us from continuing to pursue Mr. Luzardo, even if his price goes up. So I think we're going to try to get something done here. And I was surprised to see Nicky Lopez on the list of guys who could get this deal done. He's a guy who we signed as a minor league free agent just 10 months ago. Certainly brings a lot to the table defensively and a very good personality. But given that I think May is a pretty useful player for us, even though they would take Lopez and keep 40% of his contract, I'm going to give up a guy who I think is more valuable, at least to Los Angeles, than Lopez. And they'll also keep another 5% of May's contract, so it won't be a total loss for us. I think if I was just being perfectly ruthless, Lopez would be the right guy to give up, but we're going to actually give them Carson Palmquist, the left-handed guy who has pitched pretty well for us the last couple years. A year ago, he started 13 games, 5-5 with a 4.23 ERA. This past year, 42 games, only 4 starts, and he had a sub-2 earned run average over 77 2/3 innings. But he does have those extreme fly ball tendencies. We think he's going to give up a fair amount of home runs, although he's given up only 6 in each of the last 2 years, despite pitching over 70 innings. I just don't think that he's a big part of our future. And as I noted, they'll keep 45% of May's contract rather than the 40% that they would keep if we had given him Lopez. I definitely think that Palmquist is more valuable than Lopez, particularly because he's still got 2 option years left. But we're going to have Dustin May on the books for a little less than $6 million for the next 2 years, which again, he's not an ace at this point, and he's certainly had injury issues over the course of his career. But I think he can give us another good, solid major league starter and help us continue to hopefully move this team in a better direction. So we're going to go ahead and complete that trade. Brought Dustin May on board. Apparently Palmquist was also popular. He wasn't incredibly popular, but he was popular. And we took a 2-point hit to fan interest, so that's what I get for trying to add some level of realism to the trades, even though we're still on a difficult setting. But I think I much would have rather traded Nicky Lopez if I had realized that I was going to be losing a couple points in that desperately fought for fan interest that I have. But regardless, we've got May on board. Now let's see if we can add Luzardo and possibly Duvall and keep things moving. And Duvall looking for more money with the fact that we've now brought on May and we've still got Luzardo also in the mix. I'm not feeling as desperate to try to bring on Duvall, even though the other guys are starters and he's a reliever, but feel like getting into a bidding war with the Dodgers is never really a good idea. And we've made it through the winter meetings. No more trades that made sense to me. Luzardo still, the latest feedback we got from him was that he likes our offer. So hoping maybe we get him locked up soon. Got the Rule 5 draft coming up tomorrow. Don't think we're going to be nearly as active as we were a year ago when we had 3 Rule 5 picks and we kept them all on the 26-man roster for the entire season. And we are actually going to take a player here in the Rule 5, given that we've got the new addition Simpson in left, Doyle in center, Wells in right, and then the holdovers Beck and Vargas also penciled in as our 5 outfielders that we're going to go north with next year. No guarantees that he's going to make our 26-man roster unless we have some injuries. But the 23-year-old Alan Castro is a solid defensive player, got above average gap power, slightly above average speed. Little worried about the lack of home run power, but he is a guy who looks like he can get a little bit better. He hit over 300 last year in the AAA, at the AAA level for both the Red Sox and the Marlins organizations. So we're going to take a flyer on him. Again, I don't know that he makes the roster for us, but we are still going to bring him on board and give him a chance. And I was getting a little worried that we hadn't gotten any feedback, but finally here on December 30th, as we get ready for a new year, Jesus Luzardo has signed with the Rockies. So between him and Dustin May, I feel like we've definitely made some progress with the pitching staff this offseason. We'll show you the specifics of the offer that we made now, a somewhat front-loaded contract, $18 million this first year, 14 for the 3 years after that, and then team options at $12 million for the final 2 seasons that we can get out of. So feel like it's a pretty reasonable contract for us and relatively low risk given the front loading of it and the optionality that we have towards the end of it. Certainly thinking that Mr. Luzardo can hopefully be a very important pitcher for us going forward. Would assume that he is going to be penciled in as our number 1 for opening day of the upcoming 2027 season. And even with Luzardo on board, we've still got money to potentially spend. I can't say that I'm in love with any of the free agents that are out there. Definitely would be willing to give 1-year deals to guys who happen to linger on the market, but nothing that's all that interesting to me at this point. Always like to try to spend the money when we've got it in our budget. So from that perspective, I think I am going to re-engage with Mr. Duvall. Looks like his demands just keep going up. But I'm going to try to blow him away a little bit with a front-loaded contract at this point. Says he's looking for 3 years at an average of $3.92 million. We're giving him 3 years at an average of $12 million with $6 million guaranteed. We are keeping in the team options for the second and third years, which could be really nice contracts for us at $3 million a year. Says he's willing to think about it, so we'll at least re-engage with bringing him on board and continuing to try to revamp and improve our pitching staff. And the calendar's finally flipped to 2027, which gives us our mid-development lab reviews. Charlie Condon is on track with his bat speed program. That would be a big step forward for the highly prized prospect in our organization. Last year's second-round pick, Zane Petty, frustrated with improving his control. Fortunately, the previous year's second-round pick, Jack 24 Bauer, is on track, improving his control. Wellington Herrera, who could have a prominent part in our bullpen in the not-too-distant future, excelling with secondary pitch improvement. Unfortunately, Jamie Arnold, first-round pick a year ago, frustrated with his increased movement program. Adail Amador, frustrated with his quality of contact program. But Braden Nett on track with improving his control. And Drew Romo, importantly, who we signed to an extension earlier this offseason, on track with improving his plate discipline, which could give the outstanding young defensive catcher a bit more value at the plate. And we made it to the start of the international amateur free agent signing period. Seems like Mr. Duvall, and every time I say that name, I think of that a new coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars who left the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a perhaps somewhat less than above board way, and had that first conference where he was going, Duval. I feel bad for him. I'm sure Liam Cohen is a perfectly nice guy, but I think he's off to a strange start in his head coaching career. But every time I think of Camilo Duval, I'm going to think of Liam Cohen and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But it does seem like Mr. Duvall is not necessarily that enthusiastic about joining us. If he's getting similar money from the Dodgers and he can pitch in Chavez Ravine rather than Coors, can kind of understand why he would perhaps make that move. So no feedback from him yet, which probably is not the greatest sign. But now, before we finish the episode, turn our attention to international amateur free agency. And I think we almost have to go high end this year. I expected when we took this team over that we'd be having the maximum $5.7 million for several seasons, most likely, given that we do have a very low budget. But with our surprising success last year, 86 wins and a wild card playoff appearance, I do worry that we might not be able to match anyone's offers for the top players long into the future. So to me, this may be a year to try to bring on the biggest guns out there. And we've got a lot of big guns that we've been looking at, although some of them aren't as big as others. But Ruben Belliard, center fielder, really like the balance of his bat. Decent speed, decent corner outfielder, durable. Flipper is only looking for $1.9 million, so certainly not the top end type of guy that we're looking for. Would definitely be a fallback option for us if things really don't work out. Shortstop Joaquin Alvarado, really like the gap power combined with decent speed. Think that could play well in Coors. Also a good contact hitter, decent home run power. Looks like he could be a pretty respectable third baseman defensively. Couple catchers we've been focused on, actually three catchers. We'll talk about two of them right now, though. Rafael Duran, respectable defensively, and a bat that looks more than respectable. Switch hitting catcher, looking for $2.2 million. And then Ricardo Torres, a bit better in terms of his blocking and framing, high baseball IQ, and another bat that looks pretty solid for a catcher. final catcher is one of the highest ceiling prospects in the pool, at least according to our scout, Jose Bravo. Don't like some of those personality traits, but he's good defensively and potentially prodigious power. And then three other position players, shortstop and a couple of outfielders. The outfielders, center fielder Ramon Cantero. Really like him. High adaptability and work ethic. He's durable. Looks like a competent corner outfielder with pretty good speed, although his base running instincts aren't anything special at this point. But a line drive hitter with potentially outstanding gap power, above average home run power and eye, and slightly above average contact if everything works out. Cantero to me is a pretty interesting prospect, looking for $3 million. Right fielder Emilio Castillo, not quite as good defensively, not quite as good in terms of the speed, but potentially outstanding home run power and eye to go with plus gap power and a decent contact hitter. And last but not least, a very interesting young shortstop, Carlos Restrepo. Really not an infielder defensively. We do like the high work ethic and adaptability, but the bat for Reindeer Bill Restrepo is very impressive. Gap power, home run power, and eye, all potentially excellent, and we think his contact could actually be above average as well. We'll move to the pitchers next, and there's a couple that we've been focusing on, including one that we fell in love with when we first met this class in Sergio Alvarado. We'll start with Ruben Soto, a fragile 16-year-old. Like the high leadership and adaptability, like that he could throw in the triple digits, like that he could have 3 pitches, although it would be a lot of success and perhaps luck in the development lab to really get him enough stamina where he could be a credible starter for us. I think his stuff, his movement could both be above average and the control average-ish. More of a fallback option for us at that price. And then we do have very high scouting accuracy on Sergio Alvarado, who potentially looks like a monster, but he potentially looks like a very volatile monster. Extreme development risk, potential 4-pitch arsenal, but a ton of work to do to get there on the forkball and the sinker in particular. I think his stuff and his movement could both be world class, looking at average control for the right-hander, extreme ground ball tendencies with a potentially incredible ability to keep the ball in the ballpark. We think he can reach triple digits in terms of his velocity. But the big concerns are the personality, although he does have high adaptability, low leadership, loyalty, and most importantly, in terms of him reaching his massive ceiling, low work ethic as well. He's also a pretty small right-handed potential smart starter, 5'10", $165. D Fields is definitely on the short list of guys that I'm thinking about. My initial view when we think about all of these players is that really like Alvarado. I really like Restrepo's bat. Emilio Castillo is very interesting with that bat, but I think among the outfielders, I prefer Cantero a bit because of the durability and the better personality, a little more speed, and then I think that gap power could be very compelling in Coors. But I could certainly be convinced to go a lot of different routes here. If Alvarado's profile was cleaner in terms of that work ethic particularly, I would absolutely roll the dice on him, and I still may end up going that way. But this is the time in the game and the time in the episode when we ask for some guidance from the Worldwide Scouting Department as to what you might do with some of these high-end prospects here in this pool. I think we probably will try to offer the max to one guy if we really end up falling in love with one of them. There certainly is a path to try to get a little bit creative. But again, given this, I think we're not going to be at the 5.7 million figure for too many years. Feels like this might be a year to really go high end with a high ceiling player. So if you've got thoughts on which direction you'd recommend going, would love to hear them. We've got Luzardo signed. We've made the trade for Dustin May. Still trying to bring on Mr. Duvall. And hopefully we'll be making a move towards a big-time international amateur free agent in the not-too-distant future as well. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.